Okay, there I am. Okay, all right. Trying to get myself straight here. How you doing, Mr. Vince Carter, the original Coach Carter?
Doing well, thank you. How are you this evening?
Hey, it must be Wednesday. I was having a conversation um, about you today. I ran into a gentleman that says, and the first thing I said when I mentioned your name was, he said, "Oh, Midnight Basketball." And I was like, yeah, yeah, yeah. And of course, he's thinking that you're still here. And I was like,
Yeah,
no, he abandoned me. I am the stepchild. And he was here about a week ago, so on
yeah,
and so forth. But how you doing? You look good,
doing
though.
well. I'm feeling good. In the swing of things, summer basketball, getting ready for the season, getting ready for school to start. I think I got 10 days, 12 days, and then we're at it again. We're at it again for another 180 some days. So excited about football starting, and then also, of course, basketball. So it's an exciting time right now.
Okay, well, real quick, I want to say hi to Sonia. Sonia, I was just thinking about you the other day. Sonia's in Sarasota, Vince, and she's been
Hmm.
on the Journey 2020 a couple of times. And Sonia, I was just thinking about you the other day because I hadn't talked with you in a while. I'm going to give you a shout out real soon. But now, Vince, you might be able to relate to this real quick. Since you work in law enforcement, and I never asked you this, but so when you work in law enforcement in the military, she works with the dogs and the training and stuff like that. Did you ever work with any dogs in the
But
military?
not in my assignment. No, we did not work with dogs. I was assigned to a group that used dogs,
Okay.
but I mean, I had a chance to work with them on a temporary assignment, but I was not assigned to work with canines. I wish I was. I think that would have been interesting.
So you didn't get a chance to bring home Ren 1010, huh?
No, didn't get that chance. I got
Now the millennials would have no idea who Ren 1010 is, right?
that's the advantage of having been here a while.
But anyway, I asking you for people that don't know, this is Youth Central Sports, where we come to you every Wednesday at 11 p.m. talking sports and a whole lot more. Uh, the original Coach Carter, because we know Coach Carter, because the movie is on all the time. But the
All the time.
original Coach Carter is here with me every Wednesday and with
Right.
you as well when you tune in, because we're on Twitter, Periscope, we're on Facebook. We ask that you subscribe to us on YouTube. Make sure you hit the like button on Facebook as well. But whenever I bring up Coach Carter, I like to acknowledge the fact that the Coach Carter that people see in the movie, actually, when was the last time you talked to him? Because he he
It's
was a
been a while.
guest speaker at Midnight Basketball Hall of Fame dinner. Very nice guy, but you talk to him from time to time, right?
We do chit chat from time to time. We have not spoken in the last 3 to 4 months, and that's not too unusual. Every 6 months or so, 4 to 6 months, I get a random call from him, or sometime I make a call to him. We have not communicated, but he's in and out of Florida frequently.
Hmm.
Over in the Sarasota area, Tampa area, St. Pete, that area, Clearwater. He comes in there quite a bit, and then he sneaks in and sneaks out. He does some work down there with a group. I'm not exactly sure who it is, and he's been down south. He's not. I think he's working in Orlando one time too. That's before we actually knew one another. So he gets in and out of Florida frequently.
Well, Vince, I never, you know what? I don't know if I shared this with you, but maybe I did. I probably did. But he gave Ken and I a very good compliment, and because
Mhm.
and it came out of nowhere. He just said, "Hey, I've been doing this for a while. I do this all the time in California, so on and so forth." And he said, "You guys are as much as top notch as anybody that has ever done this that I've ever been around." So Ken and I kind of looked at each other like, "Oh, okay."
Well,
And he
and
just
I'm
said
glad
that
he,
out of the blue. I mean, we wouldn't ask him anything, but he just said that out of the blue, you know.
I'm glad he shared that with you, and that it came from him, because that's similar to a conversation he shared with me. And he talked about he was trying to acknowledge how well organized the event was, how it was handled. He got his money on time. I mean, he stayed at a top-notch hotel. And I understand that. I understand that's how you rank that. And he stayed in a top-notch hotel, got great service to the point that he stayed an extra day or two. Showed him around the city. He got a chance to go up to Boone High School and interact with the kids there. And acknowledging all of that, he started with you guys, how professional you all were, how smooth, they were. And it was very, I was very proud that he acknowledged you guys. I thought that meant a lot to me too for him to say that. And then of course he acknowledged how the program itself and so on and so forth. So I'm glad he shared that with you personally, because I think it was so much more coming from him to you guys than myself.
Right. And then the funny thing, and not that it's a big deal, but he shared his phone number with me, and I done forgot. He asked me to do something or something, and I was supposed to check back with him like a week after he left after the dinner. And I called
Hmm.
him, talked to him for a little while, made reference to something. I don't forgot what it was. I don't know where his number is now, but he did give me his number, and then I called him. He answered the phone. We talked for a little while, and boom, So I mean, he's a
Yeah.
very nice guy, very
Oh, he's
down
very
to earth
personal.
guy, very real
Yeah, very,
guy. You know.
very much, very personable. I find him to be true to his character. He is exactly who he is, and he don't put on any airs about it. You have to be. Anybody that meets him, I tell him, get ready now. This is gonna be strong because he comes real, but he's a good guy.
Oh,
I have enjoyed my relationship with him because we argue about who's more famous, him or me. I tell him probably me because I've been here longer.
yeah. Well, be before we get into the show, um, I've been start. I mean, I fish a lot, so I like to fish. So
Right.
normally I go saltwater fishing, and I used to freshwater fish years ago, and so I hadn't freshwater fish for years, but I started back last year, even though I still do a lot of saltwater fishing. So last year, this time, I had really caught maybe about 12 bass or more about this time of the year, maybe probably even more. And for whatever reason, where I normally have caught those 12 bass or more, I haven't caught any. I caught one the other day, but he was too small, so I threw him back. Then I lost one yesterday. That was a really nice one. Of course, you got that story where you lose one. So I just had to share with you. I just threw out the day, Vince, and my first bass that I was very happy that I kind of got to brag a little bit
Mm.
that that's going to be some very very good eating.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
Yeah. I can.
that's my last. I
Yeah.
mean, I mean, I mean, it's just one fish now. I've taken 3 pictures, but it's just one fish.
Okay. It's gonna be some
So
good eating though.
yeah, oh yeah, 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 yeah. So I don't know if you like grilled bass, but it's a very good eating fish.
I like most grilled food and fish particularly. I prefer to have it grilled or broiled. So that would be very appetizing. If you can hold that until I get back, put it in the freezer till I get back. Yeah, that'd be some good eating.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So I don't know why it's been so slow this year, But anyway, it felt good to have him on that line, when you reel it in. You got that little,
Yeah,
and I had to
yeah.
actually pick him up. I couldn't pull him out. I had to pick him up, in order for me to pull him out. So yeah, yeah, I felt good. So, but anyway, just want you to know I got some things in the works about our meeting that I told you about with Florida Central Sports. That's
Right.
that's still going. We're going to talk more about that. But also, Vince, oh, I saw your post. I saw you. I saw your Twitter post, which kind of went back
Uh,
to our summit a few weeks ago. Parents
which,
coaching on the sideline. So
yeah.
we're gonna talk about that at some point. But I did see your Twitter, so people, you need to follow him on Twitter because you do post some very very good stuff, as well.
uh,
And actually, you know what? You post something on Twitter every day, though, don't you?
Almost every day.
Right,
Almost
right.
every day.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
let me
Twitter
see if I can
and
put
Facebook.
this up real quick. So yeah, yeah. That's you on Twitter, right?
Okay, wait a minute. I gotta. Okay, I can't see you. Yeah, I think so. Yeah, yeah.
Right.
Let me see, check my Twitter name. I think it's Vincent L. I don't
But
think it's Vincent.
anyway, I am Charles. You can follow me on Twitter as well, and I'm on Instagram. I'm on Periscope. I'm on Facebook. All of that.
Mine is Vincent L. Carter,
Right, right, right. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
not
That's what was
not
up,
Vin.
Vincent. Yeah.
No, that was Vince. It's Vincent L.
Oh, it's
Carter.
Vincent. Okay, I got to
Vincent.
change that then. Okay, I got to change it. Okay,
That's my Twitter account.
okay.
That's my
All right,
personal
all right.
account.
I will. I will change that. I will change that. I actually should be the original Coach Carter at Twitter.
Yeah, yeah, right. That's what I need. They don't
But
get me confused with the fake.
listen, we have been talking because we talk sometimes off cuff, and we had a conversation last week, and we were talking about the World Cup when it comes to basketball. And a lot of the guys, that was one of the things that we talked about on the show last week. A lot of the guys that were pulling out that we know, whether James Harden and Damian Lillard and a few of the guys decided that they didn't want to play, which is fine. How do you think they will do with the roster that they have now? What you think of the roster that they have now?
What I've seen so far, there'll be, the star power is not particularly there, and I don't know they necessarily need that to compete well. But it sounds like right now, what I've seen so far, they will compete well. They still got a good chance to win. It's just going to be they're going to have to really play some basketball. We won't, which I think is good, which makes it more competitive. So I think they still got a good shot at it.
Right. And then and I was asking the question, we kind of briefly talked about it, about, back in the day when they would use college players. And so my question that I asked about well, actually, you know what? Let me ask you this question. This is a question that I was hoping that Danielle would join us tonight, but I wanted to ask you this question. Give me two players that's a junior or a senior coming into this college season basketball that you recognize that would be a good draft choice in the NBA. That's a junior
Uh,
or a senior.
I don't, I don't do that. I'm gonna tell you why. Because I'm not a fan of early people leaving school early. I
No,
don't
no,
think
no, no,
that
no, 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 no,
no,
no. My
they're being
question.
drafted coming out of junior senior year. I don't have one.
Well, no, 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 no. I was asking. No, the reason why I was asking the question was, can you give me a college player that's a junior or a senior that you watch that you think would be a good NBA player? Is what I was asking. Not that they would be drafted. I'm just saying, give me a name of a junior
I struggle
or
with
a senior.
I struggle with that because I don't know that you can project that from if you talk about high skill level that some of your better school kids are playing good basketball. They seem to be doing well in their conferences, but project that into NBA, that's hard to do. I think a lot of people take a good guess at it. I'm not good at guessing at that. I've seen too many times players, the evaluation that they give for those kids to get from one level to another is so complex. And now they throw in analytics and all of that kind of stuff, but it's hard to project that. First of all, they're taking one year, 2 year players. Nobody's really looking at your 4 year player anymore, although you got some coming along. They're not looking at your senior because it has been perceived in the NBA ranks that if you're a 4 year player, that probably he's not valuable. That's the best way I can say it. And they don't believe that individual. They think he's done, and I disagree because I disagree with the fact that you get a kid 1 year removed from high school and you expect him to come in and make a major impact in the NBA. Not happen. rarity here and there. But even those guys that they award that to and they've said they've been so successful, they really took them time to have the impact that they're talking about. So I'm one of those proponents of believing that early, believe in that one and done. I'm not a good now. If kids stay at least 3 years, he has got some experience under his belt. It doesn't matter what program he comes from. I do think that makes a big difference if you're a Division I program as opposed to Division II. But you got some Division II players that have gone on to become great ball players. Systems that they come from shortens the learning curve, certainly when they get to the NBA, how well they were taught in college. But that one and done thing to me is just terrible.
Well,
Look
the
at the
reason
ones that we got just recently.
no, the reason why I was asking the question based on what you were just saying, because I was going to bring up, do we know, and the reason why I was asking the question, do we know of any juniors or seniors that's been around that had not left early that would be considered a good ball player that could be picked to go play on the World Cup team? So I was thinking like, okay, no. This is my point, because I was going to what you were talking about, where those 1 year players leaving early, where they're really not ready for the game. But I'm just saying, for those that are staying around, bettering their game and becoming better ball players, do we know of any? Because we're so into those 1 year or 1 or 2 year players and then they're gone. Do we know of any players that are juniors and seniors that are still developing that could go and play and contribute to that World Cup team? Is what I was trying to get to, is why I asked that question. That's why I asked, did you know of any?
I don't have a list of any, but I'm sure there are many out there that can be that to choose from. I don't have a list. I don't that particularly that I'm watching, but I know that there's the people that gather that information and use that to look at. There's some good quality kids, but again, you're taking kids and putting them against adults. You're playing these other countries. These are professional ball players from their countries, and they may not be in the games that they're playing, but from where they come from, they're professional players. So they've been playing ball a long while. And that's why when we first started doing this, even from the Olympic standpoint, they were bringing over these college kids, and they were not being able to compete very well. So then we turned and went professional to professional and sprinkled a couple of college kids in with it. Then all of a sudden, you got a whole different program going on now. And in today's environment, a lot of these guys, injuries, costs, age, all those things are factoring into it. And I think it's one of those situations where you want you would like to have your younger players have that experience,
Right.
but it's so competitive that you really want to be competitive. You got to get the best you can out there on the floor.
Yeah, it doesn't. Was it that long ago? Vince, how long has it been since college players played, man? How long is, I mean, how long has it been? It's been how
Uh,
many years has it
it's
been now?
I don't want to guess at that because I don't really remember that, but it's been at least 4 years that they've had any that I can recall, if my recollection is correct.
Well, no, because they started back at that Dream Team in 1992. You know that
Yeah, but
1992
see, they,
Dream Team?
yeah, recently they had, yeah, but they had 1 or 2 college kids sprinkled in there. They had one. You didn't
No,
hear
no,
much
no,
from them.
no,
They didn't play
no,
them.
no. I'm talking about before they started using pro players at all. When it was all college. I'm saying, how long ago was that?
Oh,
When it was
that's
just
been a
strictly
while.
college.
For all ways, I don't even remember. I can't even give you a date on that. That's how
Well,
long. It's,
I guess it had to be in the
and then again,
80s.
yeah, it had to be in the late mid '80s when they first started, because in the '90s that's when they decided to bring in some of your professional players and to make it equal. And they're really one of the things that's changed too. You got a lot of coaches from the states that are coaching overseas now. They do that in the summer. So those kids over in those various countries. In fact, I got a friend of mine that's over in Helsinki right now coaching a group of kids. He was in Germany a couple of months ago, and they're going over and they're doing basketball clinics and coaching and stuff like that. So those kids are getting a lot of information that our kids get over here. So they come over pretty well prepared. They do a good job of already being prepared fundamentally, but they're coming over, so they're getting exposed to the game at that level. So a lot of them come over ready to play. Their skill sets are different, and some of them are coming over with um, the same kind of skill set, but a little bit different the way they approach that. But they're generally fundamentally sound on a broad perspective. They're very fundamentally sound. So it's kind of balancing out a little bit. There's a lot of scouting that's being done from the NBA teams overseas. Even some of your colleges are extending a lot of got guys that's all they do. They station over there and they go around and watch. A job I would love to have is to go around and just watch basketball, and evaluate talent. What a job! I think that would be a fantastic job.
Right. Now, question. Now I'm gonna ask you to jar your memory. What
Mm.
is the best youngest player you ever coached? Where you was going like, he's young man, but man, he's good.
Working well, I'm not working with. I've been exposed to him within the last 2 years. He was a sixth grader.
Oh wow.
Um, I think he may be seventh or eighth now. This young kid is absolutely unbelievable for his age. I've had him in basketball camps. High IQ for his age. I mean, skill level. You can tell he has a ball in his hand all the time. And to my surprise, well, I don't want to say it in that sense as a surprise, but he's a good student also. Very well mannered individual. Loves this game of basketball. By far, that's probably the best I've seen at that age, a young age coming up. And if this kid continues to progress at the rate he's doing now, because he, like I said, seventh grade, he was playing with ninth and 10th graders and holding his own. I mean, he's small, so I mean, the size sometimes, but he gets free, gets open, he gets the ball up the court, and he has a high motor. I mean, this kid gets up and down the floor, and you can tell he loves it. His parents seem to be balancing it very well so far. They're rewarding him with basketball for what he does on the academic side, and I guess as well as how he behaves, both at home and in school. So for right now, and I don't want to call his name because I don't want to, I don't want to do that to him. But I think I would say right now, his kid is by far the best I've seen. And I've had a chance to coach some young kids because young kids typically for me, my experience has not always been that good. And that might not have been the kid, that might have been me, not able to really help that kid. I think
Right.
I'm in a better position. But I've seen some young kids. He by far is the best. I remember one out of Orlando, actually out of Kissimmee, a young man who I did not think was that good of a ball player, but had a big heart. And I got a chance to coach him as a seventh grader. We had a seventh and eighth grade summer team. I had seen him play once before, and again he was a bad. But this kid, I don't know what happened. He came out, he played well, he did, and so I didn't see him until we played that summer. He made his freshman team that next year. Okay, yeah, I'm sorry, he must have been an eighth grader because he made his freshman team. And after that, I don't know what happened to him. This kid just blossomed into one heck of a basketball player. I mean, he just blew up. I mean, I was amazed. I mean, I always tease him. Hey, man, I always remind him, I coached you when you were young, man. I really did. And he always laughs. Yeah, coach, I got my foundation from you. That's not true. That's not true. We just crossed paths at that time. So that's probably the second kid. Those two right there, are probably the two kids that I've been most impressed with.
Wow. Yeah. Got a question for your ex Dallas Cowboy. I heard them talking about Dez today,
Hmm.
and he was
Hmm.
saying something about he's not ready to come back. I don't know what that's about.
Yeah, Dez is suffering from. He seems to be. The last thing I read late this afternoon around that is some depression, anxiety, and all that kind of stuff is come into play. I don't. nine times out of 10, it's been there all along. He's been able to cover it up because he's actually been playing. But now that he's not playing, it's probably too strong for him to handle on his own, or he can't cover it up. I was kind of surprised that because I had not heard that about him before, although he had some bizarre behavior that I thought at the time. But it appears as though that's probably what's facing him now. And I think the depression has come from Jeremy Lin is going through a very similar. He just won a championship with the Toronto, and here he is. He hasn't been picked up by anybody, and it's bothering him. He did a press. He did a I guess it was a press conference over in his homeland of I think it was Japan, if I'm not mistaken. And he was talking. He broke down in tears. That feeling of abandonment. He believed the NBA doesn't care about him anymore, and it's sometimes that's not the case. And Dez's case, he creates some enemy. He also refused to do some things, and so that makes people, not want to be involved with him. But from a emotional standpoint, personal standpoint, it's probably weighing very, very heavy on him, and that's what I've read. So it kind of makes sense to a degree that he would be dealing with that, and if it is, that's tough. So I would think in my mind he's ready for anybody's team because he's going to have to be able to manage that in order to go out and make that roster.
Ezekiel Elliott.
A little
Question for you.
surprised about that.
I got a question for
I
you.
was disappointed.
No, no, I got
Go
I got a
ahead.
question for you. Uh, I, I get I get wanting to get paid and da da da, but
Yeah, I'm okay with it.
right. But my question to you is, when has he not been in the news, Vince? So as a owner, whatever, do you take that under consideration? Because when has he not been in the news? I think he's in the news now for something. So do you take that under consideration?
Um, I think you have to look at the contract that they signed, the moral clause that's in the contract. If there's a moral clause in the contract, whatever that lays out to be about what your behavior should be like in unity, that becomes the biggest issue that he has right now is that now the Cowboys are being sued in an allegation that they covered up an automobile accident that he was involved for him to be a place. So somebody's deciding to sue both the the Cowboys for their cover up. That just came up because of his performance over the last few years as it relates to other players around him. Makes sense uh, that he would want to do that. There's two ways that I would handle is you could give money now and renegotiate when this current contract is up because he has 2 more years. Sit down and look at it. Now, the conversation was a position of arrogance, which is what I think occurs all along. Having is that he came in and said he didn't need a. You don't need a. I want to quote. Well, I'm going to have to. I'm going to. I can't quote him verbatim, but something to the effect that I should Russia to be a championship team. That's an ignorant statement. And Sun came out and said they didn't want to be a trendsetter. Listen, the quarterback, Zach, they're holding off on him. You want to look at Amari Cooper. These are the three guys, Zeke, Zach, and Cooper, that make the Cowboys go. What is the question? Now, if you got moral issues with Elliott, then that's a different situation. I think that has to be looked at. If he's in and out of the news on a regular basis, as long as it doesn't fit the contract and the clause, it is what it is. It's popular, if you will. But if he's violating that, then that has to be looked at.
Well,
Jones has brought all kind of guys to the Cowboys for all kinds of reasons, but all kinds. That doesn't mean you want to have one that you want to have one on your way. That's what he's done. A lot of guys get second chances for all kind of situations. So there's got to be a little bit more to than what I've been reading. I'm a little confused.
they're talking about Dak, and his contract. Is he underrated, overrated? How do you see him, the conversation that they
I
have
think he's,
about where he is in his career behind center?
I think he's great. The guy's done well. He's done well. He's exceeded some of the expectations. The team may not have met the goals, but you look at Zach, he's done really well. He came in, he took over and had his rookie year, but his second, you know, receivers, not having top-notch receivers around him. But I think if you look at uh, interceptions, yards, game per pass, he's very qualified. He deserves to get paid. That's the way I look at it. I mean, if I'm paying him, I have no questions. Conversation about the contract, but Zach is a young guy. So what are we talking about? 3 year, 5 year? I can reason.
Yeah. There's a question about Luck. He has a calf strain. Have you seen that? They
Yeah,
they're keeping him
you
out.
know, yeah, Charles. This thing that happened with Durant and Clay has caused an awful lot of people to be a little skittish about minor injuries, bringing them back too early, really giving a lot of attention to that. Just not specifically their injuries, but injuries in general now. I think they've always been cautious. I think they've always had good protocol about putting a player back on the field, but everybody's even more skittish now, looking at Durant going out the way he did, and then also looking at Clay being out. So I think he's a starting quarterback. He has nothing to prove right now. Why not hold him out? Julio Jones, I'm not sure I understand his reasoning, but he said that with the Falcons that he wasn't going to play any preseason ball. He didn't need to. He'll get himself ready. The only bad thing about that is, if you sell that to the team accepts the fact he's a veteran and maybe he doesn't need this to get ready, so it doesn't cause any rift among the team that he's better than the rest of us. Certainly he's a veteran. That ought to mean something. So then you can put him out, so you can hold him out. They've had conversation about preseason ball. There are a couple of players have gotten hurt in practice already. So it's a sensitive thing, but you got to do it. You got to get out there and get ready to play. And they cut down the number of preseason games, and being concerned about it. I think Luck being out makes sense. Makes sense.
But you know what, Vince? Um, I've heard. I don't think I've heard anybody really talk about this. Maybe they did, but that whole Durant thing, to me, because when you look at what happened and you look at all the other Achilles tears or whatever it was the same thing when he went up and then he turned around and he looked down because I think Kobe said, "Did you kick me?" It was kind of like the same thing.
Yeah, a snap. It's a snap that you
Right,
feel. They
right,
said, "Oh,
right.
feels like
And
something kicked him."
right. And so that's what he did. And so, but they always, and I'm not saying anything, but other than his reaction to what happened at that moment was just that. And then all of a sudden it ended up being that in the end, but somehow or another they was to me trying to make it seem like it wasn't that. So
Well,
it
here,
was just kind of weird that his whole reaction was the same reaction for everybody who's had that injury. I mean, am I making sense?
he had two. He had two. See, the first one was different from the second, and it's just one of those. And everybody would say that he probably knew, as everybody knew, if you go out and play on this, there's a chance, this thing could rupture and you could have this injury.
Right.
That's a decision that's a decision that's made by all involved. My understanding is that that was a conversation that was had and everybody agreed. And obviously he came out, he was having a good game. And the inevitable that was already discussed is a strong possibility was that. So he made a conscious decision to get out there. I don't think he was blind. He wasn't forced to do it. In fact, from my understanding, if my information is correct, he agreed to do that. It's unfortunate, but it's the way the game goes. So I don't understand the controversy. They didn't force him to do it. They didn't give him an ultimatum. And if he had said he didn't want to go, he wasn't ready to go, they were willing to deal with that. They had no problem with that. Clay, when he heard originally, he went to the back and came back, was going to play, which would not have been a good decision. Although you got to love his determination and his integrity for the game. But the long run, is it worth it for the long run? I'd rather have him next year than lose him for 2 or 3 years.
Right.
So again, a conscious decision, but all of that is just making everybody, because the NFL particularly is very, NBA and baseball as well, but most of the NFL very sensitive about concussions. So that has come up over the years, and that's a huge animal that really everybody's giving a lot of attention. Uh, but you've had a lot of Achilles tears. You've heard over the years, Kobe's had them, and when Durant came up, all kind of people mentioned that they've had. You know it. I mean, you know it. I mean, he knew what he had, and then he had healed from that. Boogie came out and had a quad tear, something where I ruptured my quad. He and severed it actually, and he had a rupture. It set him down for a while. So those things happen. Those guys make those decisions. I didn't understand the controversy around it. Did he have to play? Well, that was his decision to play or not to play. I'm sure he knew, according to what I've read, he understood what the risk was, but he wanted to play. I think that's what you expect from one of your players. You're playing a championship game, for God's sake. I mean, this is what it's all about. If you can go, you go. And it just didn't work out that way.
Wow. Vince,
He took a big chance. Took a big
right,
chance. I mean,
right,
and I
right.
don't blame him for taking that. I really don't. I
Vince, I
really
just
don't.
pulled something up and I did not know this. I didn't know that Nick Buoniconti died.
Yes, he died today, as I think. I think he died today, if I'm not mistaken.
Wow, I did.
He outlived his son, which
Right,
you, and I want to say this with all sensitivity, who was paralyzed, and
right.
that was part of his drive, was to find a cure for not only his son but all others who were paralyzed. He goes before his son, and I think statistically you would say it would be the other way around. But he now his son, and I became a Bonacani fan because of his efforts for his son and that whole effort that he had. I mean, I grew up a semi-Dolphin fan, but he was an interesting person, I'd always thought. And the cause that he was fighting for his son and the progress they were making. They sort of picture earlier today of the two of them together, and I don't know how recent it was, but touching picture. And yes, I think he was
78.
78 years old. Yeah,
Well, you you know the game of football. He was undersized for the position that he played,
didn't play
which
that
meant
way though.
it says more about his heart and how he played the
Oh
game.
man, that whole Dolphin team back then, they were not the super team of the records that they put on the field. I mean, it was an average, just a Paul Warfield, not blazing speed, but could catch anything if you threw it near him. Kick, Mercury Morris. I mean,
Right,
they just Don Shula put together a bunch of average guys that excelled, that played extraordinary football, and they did it as a team. I mean, they worked hard. They played up and down the field. It was amazing to watch, because they didn't have this. I was a Baltimore Colts fan at the and but you drawn to them because of what they did. It's just what they did. You couldn't help it, ignore that. So yeah, he was undersized. Played both offense, defense, and kicking game was unbelievable. One of the few teams that have perfect seasons.
well,
So
yeah, yeah.
you know,
It's funny because that was in the mid 70s, mid like 72, 73, somewhere around up in there. But it's
was
funny because
overseas.
every since then, at the end of every season, they come together and I guess they share some champagne or smoke some
Yeah,
cigars because that
quite an
unblemished
accomplishment.
record.
Yeah, it's quite an accomplishment. I think when you think about sports in general, play. You look at wins and losses, and many teams celebrate their wins and losses, based on evaluate you on what did we do win loss first. How well did we play, and then you kind of break it down from there and look at some who got better, who exceeded expectations, all that kind of stuff. But first thing you look at is win loss. How did we do? How far did we go? And to be able to, you got to celebrate that. That's a heck of an accomplishment. You got to, every year you got to come together and talk about that. And also, it's a great way for them to rekindle friendships and stay in touch. I know for a fact through Doug, Gabe goes out to the Oakland Raiders out there and chit chat with those guys that he plays with. They stay in touch. They support each other's events, golf tournaments, clinics, whatever it is. They stay in touch, which I think is what team sport is all about. I always liked that about team sport. I did a football camp he had, and the number guy, Randy Moss, came in, and there was a couple other guys that came in that really just added to, and they were all friends. They all come to support and share their knowledge.
When you look at because it's funny because it was Miami who actually beat the Chicago Bears in '85. Because they were en route to have a undefeated season. Because that '85 Bears team, man, that defense was something else, man. I used to love to watch those guys on defense. I didn't even care about the offense. I just loved watching those guys, and I used to love to watch the Raiders, and I used to love to watch Dallas Doomsday because the defense was just so good and so dominant, But
Rams had those two, and so did Minnesota Purple People Eaters.
Right. Yeah.
Those guys played just phenomenal football.
It was the Purple People Eaters and the Fearsome Foursome.
Yeah, I think that's what drew me to team sport, is when you see a group of people come together, despite skill level, despite whatever, they are able to come together as one unit and affect what they want to get done. That's what got me excited about team sport. I don't have to be the best. I just have to play my part. And that's what I like about team sport. Now, if I got the best and I can put them all together, I'm excited about that. Don't get me wrong, but to be able, that's what team sport is about. And I think that's one of the things I like about it.
Yeah, that is funny because back then when I was a Raider fan, back when Lester Hayes played and Jack Tatum, and they used to keep a statistic on the teams that played the Raiders on the following week of their winning percentage, because the Raiders played so physical. Right. That the next week, the team that played usually lost because they were so beat up. Right. So they had this statistic that once you played them the following week, you lost.
Yeah, they were the first true physical team. They punish you for coming down around anywhere near. That's just the way they played. Kenny Stabler was a
snake
issue on the offensive side, and then the defense just came and just beat you up all day. And so I was a John Madden fan,
right?
And I just liked the way Madden's enthusiasm for the game really got me excited. I wasn't necessarily a Raider fan, but I was a John Madden fan. And then conversely, or you look at Chuck Knowles back in those days, he was totally opposite of John Madden. Kind of cool, kind of calm. Then you had Bud Grant for Minnesota, who had no emotion at all. Then you had my all-time favorite, Tom Landry, who I sometimes I wonder, was he at the game or not? I saw his body. Tom had no expression. I remember reading, and they scored a touchdown. Everybody was excited and jumping up and down, and he had turned and walked the other way, going down to prepare for the next offensive series. And they were just celebrating and ran up to him and said, "Well, Coach coach, and he said, he looked at him with his Tom Landry face and said, that's what they were supposed to do. You know, he wasn't excited. You act like it was a mistake. He thought that's what they were supposed to do. That's the way it was supposed to work. And that's the way he approached things. He's never surprised. If it worked, it's because it was supposed to. If
Right.
it didn't work, you did something wrong. Celebrate that. He couldn't understand. Well, what are you celebrating? You didn't think it was going to work? And that's the way he approached. And after a while, his teams began to look at it the same way. And you notice you didn't see a whole lot of, because it was an expectation. We expect to win. We're not surprised that we won. We expect to win. And but he had no emotion. Tom Landry said he could not afford to be emotionally involved. He had to stay focused on the game. And a lot of people criticize him for it, but I like it.
Let me ask you, I've never asked you this question, but how do you see the legendary Vince Lombardi as a coach? What is it? Is there anything
Man,
that you admire about him?
yeah, I just love his commitment to the game and how he related to his players. He had created an environment that everybody loved Coach Lombardi. He was frank, very much like a Landry. Here's the expect. He said the same thing. If that play didn't work, you did something wrong because it should have worked. If you done what I told you to do, and you done it the way I told you to do, and his players responded to that. Now he created an environment where the expectations were so high, and they were reaching for them, and they believe they love that man. They love when they I mean I read stories about him off the field, how they loved Lombardi, but he was tough on them, and he ain't cut no slack from starter to reserve, box star, whoever it is. Everybody got a piece. He got a piece of everybody, and they respected that, and they moved on. So I thought for his time he was a great motivator. Know his mind, said what he had to say, but got guys to get it done. They got it done for him.
And see, and that's one of the things that I learned at a young age from execution, because understanding whatever sport it is, it doesn't matter what sport it is.
Mm.
And a lot of times, those who don't understand the game, like football, when there is a breakdown and there's a play that is made behind the line of scrimmage or so on and so forth, you or someone like you who understand the game won't look at what happened there. You will look at who didn't execute and how that player got there because somebody made a mistake, and
That's my mistake.
because of that mistake, then this is what happens. But for people who don't understand, there's so much going on. But for somebody who
Well,
know the game like you'll go, that lineman was out of place, that lineman missed the block, that lineman or whoever, and I'm just using that as an excuse.
yeah,
That's
yeah.
why it didn't work. Our,
Well,
our,
and a lot of
our,
times,
our
he,
Vince Lombardi mentality was, look, defense, this is what we gonna run, and you know what we
right.
gonna run, but if we execute, it won't matter. That was his
Well,
mentality.
he did in addition to that, where I think was probably one of his strong points, and you see it now in other coaches. And one of the coaches in is a Saban at Alabama. He prepared them for what could happen. He said, he really they were well prepared when they went in to play, and he said play football. I mean, yeah, sometimes you get out schemed. I think he accepted that once, not twice. It might trick you one time, but you're not going to trick me a second time. And he really had those guys prepared to play. They played together as a unit, and see, that's what I've listened to Saban, and Saban talks about us, about we, the process, and what part did we play in the process. That's old news when you go back and listen to a Lombardi talk about that. You talk about a Chuck Noll back in the day talking about that. Them old raggedy Redskins back in the day. That's what they talked about. That student body right, that student
Right.
body left. Which was an old UCLA play, but that was the mentality that they talked about as a team effort. And so I'm learning, when you have that, when everybody sacrifices I for team, you get some phenomenal activity on a football field, on a basketball court, or a baseball diamond. When the object is about team, not about me. It's not about you. It's not about me. It's about the team. And the logic that we use is what's best for the team. What's best for the team? Who gets done what's best for the team? Who best does that? And that's, so everybody has a role to play. So I'm again, what makes me a fan of team sport is when you can get. And how exciting is it? And I've used this same principle when I manage people. And we had some success because we were all on the same page. Now, does it take time to get that? Yes, it does. But when you get that, to have everybody on the same is one of the most exhilarating feelings. When we all, I was look at it on the basketball. You played basketball. You can appreciate this. You're coming down the court. You call a man-to-man play, and they go to zone, and you call a zone play, and the team adjusts according right off the bat. Bam! Everybody know where to go. That's
Right.
exhilarating. That's time spent. That's and everybody thinks that's so simple. Do you know how much time that went into that to have some
Well,
transition take place? It looks so easy, but it's not that easy.
but then I don't know if you remember me saying, like, what does it feel like? Because that's part of that question that I asked. I don't know if you remember me asking you that question, but what does it feel like when you see your team take on your personality? Remember that question?
Well,
Did I ask you
I
that?
don't remember that, but well, kind of, I do. It's a relaxing feeling. I've had that happen since my short time in high school basketball, and I also had it, especially when I was playing YBO and AAU teams. I've had teams. I had a couple of point guards who anticipated my thought. We had spent so much time together, and I talked to them so much about this, that, and the other, that they could anticipate my next move based what I wanted done by what happens on the floor. They knew this is where we go, and we talked about it already for sure. That we wanted to play this. This is kind of what we wanted to do, but there are adjustments, and to have them make adjustments on the floor without me before I can get it out of my mouth. My cap or either my point guard has already called the defense, made a change in the defense, made a change in the call out of bounds, made a change. I mean, that's I've just sat down sometimes and say, hey, go ahead, man. You're doing so well. That's exhilarating, and that's a payoff for hard work. That's paid off for hard work. A lot of time spent talking about what you want and how you want it, and them buying in and supporting each other and believing in each other and covering for each other. That's I I think it's one of the most exhilarating feelings you can have as a coach.
Dave Ortiz left. He has been released from the hospital. That's got to be
Uh,
something else, man. You just sitting up there chilling, let alone you getting
and
shot.
wrong
But then
person,
somebody mistake you for somebody else. As crazy as that is.
and luckily he's being able. He somewhat seems to be recovering. That could have been fatal.
All right.
Or it could have been a permanent life injury that he could have been maimed or paralyzed. And thank God it didn't happen that way on mistaken identity. Mistaken identity. That's the part that's scary. Equal to having being shot in a public place like that, but to be mistaken for somebody else. And Charles, I can tell you from personal experience, we all got twins. We all got twins. I've seen a whole lot of people that I've had to stop and turn around and look at and say, wait a minute now, I know that's not you. And then you get up on him and it's not. I ran across a young lady who I used to work with. Um, I ran across this lady in the mall and walked like her. I heard her talk and sound like her, and she had her back to me. And I followed this lady, and I thought about it afterwards. I'm surprised she didn't call somebody to have stop me for stalking her.
Stalker,
She looked
stalker, stalker.
looked so like my coworker that I walked up to her. I was about to tap her on the shoulder when she turned, and it wasn't her. And she kind of dismissed me because I wasn't right up on her, but I was close enough. She turned around. She just turned and walked right past me. And I'm thinking to myself, oh man, I'm so glad I did. She looks so much, sound like her. I can't tell you how many times since I've been here in Tennessee that I've seen several of my friends twins. I saw your twin today. Your twin today.
No.
My middle daughter, I was at a basketball game and this girl was sitting across, and I could have swore that was my daughter. I had to get up, walk around the other side of the, because I said, I know she's not here, and she didn't tell me. I mean, it wasn't her, but it looked so much like her. So much. So
Wow.
that thing about we all got twins, that's true. That is
And
true.
see, the funny thing is when I first came, well, not when I first came here, a friend of mine that I had gotten to know, and this had to be actually, I remember the year, and this friend of mine, and she kept saying, "You look like this guy Cyrus." I was like, "What? You look like this guy Cyrus? He works out at Martin Marietta." And so her friend, that and she said, "Doesn't he look like Cyrus?" I was like, "What?" So this was about a year and a half that I heard this, right?
Hmm.
So Vince, when I tell you I was up in Mr. B's, I was up
Mm.
in Mr. B's,
Oh yeah, I remember Mr. B.
right? And we made eye contact. And you can tell that when I looked at him and he looked at
Hmm.
me, he was thinking the
Hmm.
same thing. Oh, you
Yeah,
must be the guy everybody telling me about.
yeah. Look just like me.
And when I looked at him, it kind of scared me for a minute. And he
Yeah.
was just such a real cool dude because it
Hmm.
was like, hey, man, you must be. And yeah, because then I said the person that know him, and he said, yeah. Da, da, da. And then we just started laughing and joking. So then we walking around the club, we walk around Mr. B's. And hey, man, that's your brother. Yeah, man, this is my brother. Da, da. But he had such a great personality in making jokes about it. And then what was the funny thing was that he walked outside and this girl came up to me, and at first she thought it was him.
Hmm.
And she looked at me and she gave me that look like, no, that ain't him. And it was the funniest thing, I was like, no, he just went outside. And I saw him
Now,
one other time, and I found out later on that he moved to Atlanta. But Vince, it was the weirdest thing to look up and see somebody that looked
you look
just
like
like you. And
I
I
had
had
two
never seen that
experiences.
before. He looked
Now,
just like me.
I, I've had two. One night I was now my two experiences. One, I was looking at TV one night, late, uh, and my son picture went by, and I looked into dang, I look just like that's not me. Oh my God. Oh, okay. All right. That's who that is. And then when I first moved to Tennessee, there's some people who met me and said, "Well, you're from Florida." Yeah, and they said, "Yeah, well, we're from Florida. We've been down there," and blah, 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 blah. They got to talking. And the guy was trying to describe to me. He had met me. He knew me through Midnight Basketball. And we got to talking about it. He said, "Man, I'm familiar with." He said, "You from?" And I told him what he said. "Well, do you know about Midnight Basketball?" I said, "Oh yeah, yeah." He said, "Man, it's this guy," and he kept on. And I really didn't know who he was talking about at first because he was just going on and calling. And so I'm sitting there and finally he's come to find out. And I kept listening to him. I said, "Well, what did he do?" And he said, "Man, I think he was, he called out. I think he did this, he did that." And I said, "Well, he looked like, hey, man, he looked kind of like, about your height and da da." And kept on. I said, "You know his name?" He said, "No, I don't remember his name." And he just kept on talking. So after about 30, 35, 40 minutes, we having this conversation. I kept looking at because I don't know him from Adam,
Right.
but he kept staring at me after a while. He said, "Now." He said, "Did you work at Midnight Basketball?" I said, "Well, I said, yeah." He said, "Okay." He said, "You look familiar to me." I said, "Okay, where do you think you know me from?" "Inglewood Community Center." "Yeah, yeah." To find out he was actually me about me. And then because then he said, "Now," he said, "Well, you worked with me." I said, "Yeah, I did." And then he said, "Well, what did you do?" And, I said, "Well, I provide a little leadership with Midnight Basketball." When he stopped for a second, he said, "You're not Vince Carter, are you?" I said, "Man, I thought this boy was gonna pass out." He fell to his knees. He said, "I can't believe it." He said, "Well, why didn't you say that?" I said, "I didn't know who you were talking about." I mean, I had a team. It was 20 people on my team. I don't know which one of them you were talking about. So it was kind of interesting to have him describe me to me. And I'm like, really? So those are my I'm not now according to the people here, they have seen my twin. I have not seen my twin, but there's several people who say I have a twin in this area. Where we've so far we not um, run into one another yet, but they swear there's one. There's a guy that looks so much like me. The only reason they know that we're not the same person is because they know I coach at Brentwood High School.
Yeah,
Other than that, we,
because
you
I'm
know,
telling you, when I looked up and saw Cyrus in the club, when I looked up for a minute, it actually scared me.
it stunned you.
It was the
Yeah.
weirdest thing because I looked up and I
I
was
have a
like, "Art."
yeah. It's a stunning situation. I've heard other people describe it. Now, you know, I have not seen my twin, but they have heard other people describe seeing their twin. Very much to what you said. They're speechless for a second. This guy looks just like me, or acts just like me, or her, or whomever. That's got to be a scary feeling.
Hey, yeah, and then
You
what was
stop.
so cool was that he was such a nice guy, man. It was just like when he looked at me, I looked at him, and we just both started laughing. And then
Yeah,
and then we was like, we started talking, and then we just started playing the role and walking around the club, and so yeah, it was funny, but yeah. So school is starting when there? When does school start?
August the 9th, we go back on the 8th. That's a Friday. We go back on the Thursday. The kids come in on half a day on Friday.
Mhm.
And then we come back on Monday and start the school year. They like to bring them in to get oriented, find out where your classes are, what you need, whatever those particulars may be, where's your locker, and get all that stuff straightened out so you can find your classroom and try to make any adjustments that need to be made because Monday they ready to get at it. They ready to go Monday morning. I mean, they ready to play. They ready to get down. So we'll kick it off that Monday, which I think is the 11th or the 12th.
Okay,
And
I had a guest on the Journey 2020. The Journey 2020 comes to you every Monday at 7 p.m. at www.thejourney2020.com. We're also live on Facebook as well. But I said this to my guests on the Journey 2020 events. This coming class that'll be graduating will be the class of 2020. Think about that.
mm,
The class of
mm,
2020. Would you ever imagine,
yeah,
right? The class of 2020.
I tell you, there's been an awful lot that has been amazing over my lifetime. Uh, you're looking at some of the technology that we have, um, and I thought that what I knew about when I was a child was exciting, and I
Right.
was so excited about it to watch that change over the years, and to think that I would be in the year 2000 whatever. When we hit the 2000 mark, and here we are coming up in 2020 and 21. It is absolutely amazing um, what has been accomplished or what is being accomplished. It's exciting times. I mean, and we're just continuing to grow. We've got a lot of problems, economies and joblessness, homelessness, and all of that. But wow, what major leaps we have made, and more to yet to be made.
Definitely. Definitely. Well, this is the original Coach Carter. I'm Charles Morris, where we come to you every Wednesday at 11 p.m. at Youth Central Sports, www.youthcentralsports. And we're at Twitter. Make sure that you hit the like button on Facebook and subscribe to us on YouTube. We're also on Periscope as well. Coach is in Tennessee. It's funny because not too long from now, we're going to be talking about some cold temperatures, probably some snow, so on and so forth. So I know you were talking about it, there being a heat wave. I don't know what the temperature's like now, but in a few weeks, uh,
We
in a
we got
few weeks,
we got about 5 weeks. We're going with tomorrow's August 1st. We're already evening temperatures are starting to go down a little bit. We're down in the 69,
oh yeah,
six, which is nice. But I think we got some football coming up soon. That's when I can really tell because I step out there on Friday night. You can tell that air coming over across the mountains coming down up in there. Boy, it gets a little. But I also know that the colder it gets, the sooner we are to basketball. So we right around. We we officially get started in November this year instead of late October. We're starting the first Monday in November, and of course we've already started the preparation part of that. But it's getting close. It goes fast. Once school starts, it just blows by. Next thing you know, it's basketball time. And
What's
I can't wait. I'm ready to
what's
go.
the average? How many games you average a year in basketball? About what's the average? And I'm not talking
Uh,
about the tournaments. I'm just talking about regular season.
20, I think 23,
23. Okay.
23,
Okay.
22, 23 there. And then, of course, the rest of that's postseason.
How many tournaments are you allowed to play in? Like like a Christmas tournament, holiday tournament.
The game counts, the schedule counts against your schedule. But if you advance beyond that, it doesn't count against your schedule. So you're only allowed to be able to schedule X amount of games. But if you move on in the tournament, those games don't count against your season in terms of scheduled games. Now, the count, your record, you won X whatever you want to lose, but you're scheduled 23 games. If you end up playing more because of your advancement, that doesn't count against that. So we play three tournaments:
Okay.
Thanksgiving, Christmas, and New Year.
All right.
And then after that, so already we play our district games. We play them twice. Play those opponents twice. So we play them in the first half, and then we play them on the second half. And then we go into district play, regional, sub-state, state, and then we go from there.
All right. Well, thank you. Always great hanging out with you.
That's just always mine.
Wish you could have stayed a little longer while you were here,
I
but
wish I
happy you
could.
made it back safe and sound.
Yeah, glad to appreciate your hospitality, man. It was a ball. I really enjoyed myself. I really kind of hated to go, but I knew it was time. I had to go. If I didn't go, I wasn't gonna make it back, so I had to go.
Well,
I'm
again,
starting to get comfortable. Starting to get comfortable.
Wally, Wally the raccoon again told me he gonna see you next time you come to
You tell
town.
what I got something for him next time I come down. I got a gift. I got a
Yeah.
gift for
Well,
it.
you know, well, actually, I guess based on your schedule is that I guess it's kind of hard for you to come here. I guess after basketball season.
Yeah, well, depends upon because once we in, we don't start. We're about 2 weeks off, and then we start back to open gym. Based on how far we go, weekends or whatever holidays that come about. Because right after school, the last we get out in May, late April, mid May, we start gearing up for the summer, and we spend the month of June with our teen camps, and then we knock that out. 2 weeks off for mandatory 2 week period that we dead period, and then we're back into the summer. So my schedule, I got weekend trips or holidays, or I can kick a day off and run here and run there, but extended visits probably not till the summer.
Oh. All right. Well, this is the original Coach Carter and Charles Morris, Youth Central Sports, and we want to say thanks to everyone who tuned in. And I don't have it here. I should have had it. Let me see if I have it real quick, Vince. I was going to say for questions and comments and concerns. There you go, right here. You can send it to youthcentralsports@gmail.com. Or you can always hit us up on a text as well. So with that, and again, I'm going to change that because you can follow Coach Carter on Twitter. That's Vincent L. Carter, right? Vincent L. Carter at Twitter. Handle
Right.
Twitter, Vincent L. Carter. All right. Well,
Mm-hmm. That's
uh, I
me.
read I read your tweets every day, man.
I appreciate that. Send them out, man. I love doing that. Sometimes it's speaking to me, so I want to share it. Talking out loud.
All right. With that being said, I'm Charles Morris with the original Coach Carter. Everyone, enjoy the rest of your week. You be
Be
blessed.
blessed.